Hello and welcome everyone back to another brand new video on the channel. Now today we have a slightly different video, a bit of a challenge video. Now a lot of my regular viewers will notice that I bang on a lot about setups in a lot of racing games, especially GP bikes. Now there's a common misconception out there that setups make you quicker. They usually don't. Usually the whole purpose of a setup is to make the bike more predictable, allow you to get to your potential, get closer to the limit. Now that isn't the same as making it faster. Now there is obviously small adjustments. If your gearing is terrible and you're on the limiter, of course making your gearing better suited to the track will make you quicker because you're not sitting on your limiter. But for the most part, your setups are just to make you a bit more comfortable with the bike, allow you to take a bit more liberty and then find that limit, and that is down to you then as a rider to make the difference. Now today we will be doing a little challenge. We're going to do a completely stock setup, so whatever the mod basically comes as a default setup, we're going to use that versus a basically esports setup, and we're going to see what the difference is. Now I'm always banging on that it's very important to get a very critically good setup, and it makes a difference a lot in league racing, and it is so. But how much is it actually worth? And that is what we're going to try and find out in today's video. So my steed of choice is the ZX10 from the SBK22 mod by Javi. The skin here is the winter testing made by Bunta. Absolutely gorgeous bit of kit. He is pretty good with his liveries, one of the better ones in the GB Bikes community at the moment. He has a lot of mods out there, and I definitely recommend checking him out on GB Bikes mods. His liveries are really some of the best out there, and this is just really nice. I love the ZX10 anyway, and I just love the winter testing one. And of course we are then riding as JR at Jerez. So for reference, the lap time that JR set in Jerez a week ago was a 38.3. So that is just a guide lap of kind of what they're actually able to do with this bike. Now whether I'll get anywhere close, I don't know, because the mod will be slightly different, the track will be different, so it will be interesting to see how close or if I can even beat that lap time. But we're going to jump in now. We're going to do 5 laps on the stock one, and then we're going to do 5 laps on the pro setup, and then we will compare how much quicker the actual pro setup is. So let's get on track. So you can see here, default setup, everything. I go through absolutely everything. Nothing has changed. You can see it's set to default. We have the pro setup there. We'll come to that later. Now, absolutely nothing has changed. So we're going to go straight to track. Now, the bike, of course, is not going to be ideally set up because of this. So we're going to do our 5 laps. We're going to do an out lap and then 5 push laps to actually get a bit of feeling in, because you're never going to jump onto a game and onto a track and absolutely go crazy fast straight away. So to make it somewhat fair, I will give myself an out lap and 5 laps, whereas with the pro setup we'll get the exact same thing, so there won't be any discrepancies. But it will take a lap or two probably just to get up to speed. But we're going to cut now just to my fastest lap from these 5, as it will take a few minutes otherwise to get this video done if I put in every lap. So we're going to jump now to my quickest, and we'll compare then afterwards with the other setup. Christ, that was a decent lap. 39.1, so that was lap 6, which would have been lap 5 of the push because they counter out lap. the stock setting is so bad. That lap 39.1 is a lot quicker than I expected. That last lap, I really shut up and just completely focused in my own head, and man, there's not much more on this setup than that lap time. I could probably go round and round and round and get it 38, like a high 38 at best, but there's not much more than a 39.1 from this setting in my hands anyway. So it's quite interesting though, because pretty much every other lap that I had done, the bike was so bad and I was making mistakes everywhere, and I was kind of feeling, well, shit, this is going to be very one-sided, because I'm going to put on the other setup, the bike will feel better, I'll be able to ride better, and then it'll be like a massive gap. But the fact that last lap was so good, I'm actually quite intrigued now to how much I can beat it, if I can beat it at all, because that was a pretty good lap from me. So we'll see what the setup can do. We're going to jump to it now, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with that lap there at the end to get a pretty decent showing of the setting. Right, so we are back with the Pro setup on. Unfortunately, I cannot share the actual setup as it is not my setup to share. We have reset to track, as you have noticed that there's no time set, so we'll do the same thing now, where we will have 5 flying laps and an out lap to get up to speed to give myself the equal chance. So 39.1 is the time I need to get to nearest as possible to, if beatable if I can. Now everything is the exact same from the electronic side, tire side, temperature of the track, fuel load, everything is the same that way. So it's just basically the suspension geometry and all that kind of nidgery stuff like that. So we're going to skip now to one of my quickest laps, or probably the quickest lap, and we'll probably do a bit of a comparison at the end to really see where the lap time is, and to see, is the setup making me more consistent, faster? Am I just getting lucky with this one, or what is the difference? And we'll see even if we don't beat it. So I'm going to jump now to probably my quickest lap of the session. So we're going to watch back now the slow motion map. So on the left is the Pro setting, on the right is the stock setup. Now the Pro lap isn't as good from a riding perspective, I must say, and immediately you can see in the stock one there, the bike is a bit more lively on the braking, especially on the first kind of grab of the front brake, and it looks like there may be a slight bit more wheel spin out of turn 1. Coming down to turn 2 now, it looks pretty similar, a really slow tight corner, so a setup isn't huge in this little corner. The change direction looks better on the Pro. It looks like it was a bit more snappy and aggressive and just more awake. The bike seemed lazy on the stock one. Into turn 3 we come now, and I'm actually just a fraction wide on the Pro setup, which puts me right out to the edge of the curb, whereas the stock one I just touched the white line. But coming into seat up ons now, you really see the difference between the Pro and stock setting. I keep it really tight on the Pro. The bike wants to turn on the throttle, whereas you can see with the stock setting I push a touch wide. In a second here now we'll have our first freeze frame, and we'll see exactly where on track and where we have gained time and who's quickest. At the moment the Pro setting is about a bike length ahead, so nothing crazy, but it already does have a gap. Again now on the brakes, heavy down into the Dani Pedrosa corner, it was clear. The stock setting was moving quite a bit to Pro when it was pretty stable. You can see there by the change direction how far Pro is ahead compared to the stock. Again, we're using all of the track, so the riding isn't too bad for the rest of this lap from the Pro, but you can really see the stock setting is getting so much out of the track. And it's actually caught back a bit of time, I believe, in this little sector here. Coming through the double apex, stock hits a lovely apex, whereas Pro goes wide. We get the hammer down now out, and we get another freeze frame. It's probably about a tenth and a half or a bike and a half to 2 bike lengths. Not massive difference from where coming into turn 6 down Pedrosa. Now coming through Ferrari and Crivier. This is definitely where the Pro setting is more stable, and into the final corner, Jorge Lorenzo. You can see I can just stop the bike, turn it easier and get the power down. There's less pumping at the rear. Up the line we come, and it's going to be about 5.5 tenths difference. So overall, the riding on my end on the Pro lap wasn't as good as it was for the stock one. I do believe the stock lap was quite tidy. So if I did another 5 laps, maybe I could have done a low 38, so maybe it could even be bigger, but we have these splits on screen now. So it's broken down, stock again on the left and Pro on the right. So you can see the red ones is the times which were slower, and the green which was quicker. Half a tenth faster, the Pro setting in sector 1. Not a huge difference. You could see the stock setting was a little bit lively on the brakes. Easily could lose half a second, or half a tenth I should say, and just a little bit of lack of confidence when the bike is jumping around. Sector 2, a different story. I think this is more down to me riding and just missing my apex is slightly coming through turn 3, and unfortunately that did catch me and cost me a small bit of time to the stock setup, but it's so close. It just proves that even with a better setup and bad riding, it's almost as quick as good riding with a stock setup. Fast forward now to sector 3. This is our big chunk, almost 2.5 tenths. Big margin. It's actually bigger than I thought, because I felt like the stock riding through there was pretty good. I felt like I really hit my apexes, going white line to white line. The braking markers were good, but again the bike was moving on the braking, and that probably just gives a bit more tension when you're riding, so you can't release the brake or getting on throttle as early. So it does a bit of tension when you're riding on a bike that's a bit lively. You just don't trust it everywhere, and you feel like if it does get out of shape, you have to pick it up and run wide. So it's always in the back of your mind. But when you have a confident setup and the bike wants to turn for you and do everything, it just gives you that extra confidence that the bike is going to be there underneath you when you get to the corner, and it's going to support you through the corner. And in the last sector, which is where we go through Crivier and through Ferrari, definitely felt like the bike was much quicker through there, almost 3 tenths. So a big difference there, and come into Lorenzo as well to change direction, getting hard on the brakes, as well as getting the bike stopped and getting out of Lorenzo corner. Everything about the stock setup was slower. It just didn't want to change direction. When it did, it was nervous on the brakes. It was dancing. Couldn't get it stopped as much. Couldn't put the power down as easy. So it just lost me time everywhere. So that is pretty much it. So it ends up at about, I think, 5.5 tenths is the gap between the 2 laps. Like I said, there's more in the Pro setup. I probably got a lot more out of it if I actually kind of gave myself enough time. But to make it fair, you can't sit there and put more time into one setup than the other. So I actually thought it'd be slightly more, but again, I think some of the time was lost to myself. My riding wasn't absolutely perfect, but I think it is quite a good representative test. So that is where I am going to leave there. I hope you have enjoyed today's video. Slightly different video. Now, I have mentioned a few times over the last couple of weeks in videos that I do have a setup video coming, so I will explain a lot of the setup options in the next couple of videos whenever I get around to it. I am working on it at the moment, but it is a pretty in detail video as there's a lot to explain. So I want to make sure before I put it out that it is all, of course, accurate, easy to understand, and that I'm not just yabbering on gibbering for 30 minutes or so talking about things that will only confuse people. So hope you have enjoyed. Let me know in the comments what you thought of today's video. Are you surprised by the gap? Are you surprised it was as big or small? Do you think it's more down to rider? Do you think the setup was amazing and the stock setting was really bad? Just let me know what you think in the comments, and thank you for watching today's video. If you did enjoy, drop a like, subscribe to see more, and I shall catch you all in a future video. Thanks for watching. See you soon.